Okay, so in my last video, there was a lot of hard-hitting truths and there were a lot of questions. So we're going to go through those questions and we're going to provide some answers because that's what you all came here for and that's what you all want. So let's jump into it. This video isn't just about Australia. This is happening everywhere. Admittedly, yes, all over the globe. But when we say everywhere, I don't mean literally everywhere. It's a business model. It is a model that has been designed to fail. And let's jump into why and how it possibly can be fixed. So this is about what happens to a country when hope runs out. We're going to look at what went wrong, the real numbers, the history that led us here, and how every civilization hit the same wall. And then we'll talk about what comes next, what can be done, and what will happen. But what can we actually do to survive this? Because as we all know, Australia didn't just collapse overnight. It drowned slowly.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
This is a sign of hope and confidence in the future of the coal industry. Coal is good for humanity. Coal is good for prosperity. Coal is an essential part of our economic future here in Australia and right around the world.
In good intentions, greed, and silence. So let's start with the truth. Australia is no longer the country that it pretends to be. For decades, we were sold the dream. Good wages, a fair go, a house with a backyard, maybe even a pool. But that dream was mortgaged, flipped, and packaged as investment stock. So as I mentioned before, the average home back in 1984 was about $30,000 to $60,000, depending on which city or which suburb you lived in. That was just over 3 times the average income. In 2025, that average now comes to about $1 million, and in some places, even more. And that's not even talking a nice house. I remember when we used to think $1 million house. $1 million house these days is something average in the suburbs with 3 bedrooms and no backyard. And that's nearly 10 times what the average person earns, but not saves. So it won't take you 30 years. It won't take you 60. It'll take you a lifetime. Look, if you bought a house before 2000, congratulations. You didn't just buy a home. You bought a ticket out of the modern economy. And everyone else is stuck paying rent to keep that same illusion alive. As I said before, the wages, they have barely moved in 15 years. But the house prices, they certainly went up. Real wage growth in Australia has stagnated since 2009. One of the longest stagnations in the developed world. Meanwhile, the cost of living exploded. Groceries up 30%. I would actually say more like 60. Rent up 40%, electricity up 60%, insurance premiums in some areas up 70%. But the system, it's not broken. It's working exactly as it's designed to keep the money flowing up, but not out. So why do you think you see all these kids now online talking about how to make 10 grand a month? How they made their first million pushing some get-rich-quick scheme. Because people are desperate and others are cashing in on that desperation. Most of those kids aren't even actually making any money. They're just delusional. I mean, it's hard not to be living in the world we live in now. But maybe that's what it takes to become rich these days. Or maybe that's how you fool a new generation into believing they can. We've become a country of dreamers without dreams. Working harder for less, hoping someone on TikTok figured out how to escape. So here's the harsh truth. The next 20 years of Australia will be decided by inheritance. Boomers and early Gen Xers own over 60% of Australia's wealth, while millennials own 6% and Gen Z only 2%. But as they age, trillions of dollars in property and super will pass down, but not through merit, not through innovation, but through bloodlines. Just as the kings and queens before them got rich and then they got rich. So this won't fix inequality. It will just hard code this into our system. So we've created a society where your postcode at birth decides your destiny. If you inherit, you'll be fine. If you don't, you'll work forever, renting from those who did. The government knows it, the banks know it. They rely on this churn. Debt sold as destiny. The economy survives by keeping you hopeful enough to keep borrowing. But it's not just about numbers, it's also about culture. Australia used to have soul, mischief, freedom, rebellion. We had cool bands like AC/DC, In Excess. Remember the good old times when music used to be real? Then we built a nation of rules and red tape. We outlawed nightlife, we monetized fun, and we turned every creative pursuit into a side hustle. The larkin became the landlord. And then people stopped living, they started optimizing. And when you lose play, you lose culture. And when you lose culture, you lose connection. And when you lose connection, you get compliance. So that's how we got here. A nation of compliant workers too tired to rebel. But here's the pattern. Look, this isn't new. Every empire, every system, they all hit the same wall. Collapse, reflection, rebuild. So let me give you some examples. First of all, the Great Depression. In the 1930s, unemployment hit 25%. Millions lost homes. Faith in capitalism collapsed. But this forced change. Public housing, social welfare, unions, and what became the post-war boom. Example 2, the oil crisis in the 1970s. Western economies froze, inflation raged, and the old industry models broke. Out of it became tech, green energy, and the birth of modern globalization. Example 3, the 2008 stock market crash. The banks imploded under their own greed. The middle class became gutted, and that collapse gave rise to decentralized tech. Bitcoin, remote work, gig economies, and now digital creators. But every reset hurts. And that's because every reset also plants the seed for the next system. So what is next? That is the big question. We're standing on the edge of a new kind of collapse. Part economic, part philosophical. AI is rewriting the rules faster than policy can enact them. Climate pressure is even rewriting where people can live. And global debt is at record highs. 313 trillion worldwide. Almost 4 times the size of the entire global economy. So history tells us when debt, inequality, and apathy align, the reset begins. Maybe it's gradual, an economic slow bleed. Maybe it's all of a sudden. A financial crash, a cyber war, a global conflict over AI, energy, or control. In one way or another, it's coming. Because systems that feed on infinite growth always collapse in a finite world. So the first cracks, they're already visible. You are seeing them, or I am seeing them. They are in plain sight. Migration patterns are actually reversing in some cases. Millions are leaving Western nations for cheaper, freer, and simpler lives in places like Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. So it's not running away, it's rebalancing. In places like Vietnam, Thailand, Portugal, Georgia, I've met Australians earning half what they do back home, but still living a better life. Cheaper rent, lower stress, more time, and that's what we need. Time is money, and time is the most invaluable thing that we have on Earth. It's proof that wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's how much peace you can afford. But the migration isn't just about money, it's also about culture. People are rejecting over-regulation, social isolation, and a constant treadmill of debt. They're remembering what life's supposed to feel like. Real food, real community, real lives, real reset. So let's talk about what we can actually do to help. This is the big question. Not fantasies, not hashtags. Personal solutions. Escape velocity. Learn skills that can't be automated because AI is taking over and it's here to stay. Look, things like good storytelling, creativity, actual problem solving, leadership, and sadly now we have to build multiple incomes, even if they're small ones. Sadly, yes, we have to cut costs. We have to live a little bit cheaper. We have to own less, move lighter. Then there's community solutions, rebuilding the tribe, join co-ops, share spaces, start community gardens, barter groups, micro business collectives. Real resilience happens locally, not politically. And then there are the political solutions. This is the tough one. Demand courage. Vote for long-term policies. Social housing, rent caps, wage reforms, banking transparency. Stop rewarding governments that overinflate assets for their own short-term gain. And then there is the global mindset. Detach from nationalism. Your opportunity isn't bound by borders anymore. The internet made geography optional. Use it. But look, this isn't going to happen overnight. Let's not be delusional. The Great Depression's recovery took 15 years. Post-war Europe took 20. This will take a generation. So look, every reset ends the same way, with people rediscovering simplicity. After the Black Death, Europe experienced the Renaissance. Art, science, exploration, and after world wars, people built suburbs and safety nets, determined never to live through those wars again. So every age of suffering births an age of creativity. And we're long overdue for another one. So look, it's not gonna look like flying cars or utopia. It'll look like humanity remembering itself, people working less, sharing more, and living slower. Look, people online told me that I abandoned Australia, that I ran away. But I didn't run. I walked away from noise, from debt, from stress, and performative success. I just wanted to live again. The country that I once loved, the backyard, the laughter, the Australia Day, the fair dinkum, the beers, the tinnies, the cans, the bongs, the whatever. The goon sack on the clothesline. People said, "How are you going?" Not, "What do you do?" I hear that all the time. That country disappeared. So I didn't leave it because I hate it. I left because I loved what it once was. And I want to remember that. But sometimes to love something, you have to let it go. So what do we do now? We rebuild, we reconnect, and we redefine wealth in a proper and ethical way.
That's not my job.
Why haven't you personally lost patience with Dan Andrews?
Because that's not my job. My job is to keep focused on the challenge that I have to protect Australians every single day.
If you're stuck, you're not alone. Millions of people feel the same way. Quietly asking themselves why life sometimes feels harder, even though this technology that we're promised is meant to make life easier. So maybe the rebellion isn't protest or politics. Maybe it's living in a different way. Living smaller, living freer, live on your own terms. So someone famous once said, travel doesn't make you run away. It makes you see clearly what you left behind. Maybe Australia will find its soul again. Maybe it won't. But until it does, look, I'll keep filming. I'll keep creating, I'll keep living out there in the spaces between the chaos and the calm. Because the country I loved is just somebody that I used to know.